Okay, you guys, I uploaded the video. In fact, it's uploading now as I'm speaking for the 17th, November the 17th, which is Saturday. This will be on Sunday's video because I just wanted to follow up on the experiment because I wanted to watch the condensation as it dries up or as it evaporates throughout the day. It's gotten warmer outside. It's a little warmer in the van now. It's showing about 60-some degrees. I think that's a little warmer because of my body heat and because I was running my buddy heater a little bit while I was uploading the movie. But anyway, during the period of time that I was in here and away from the van, the condensation dried up, or I should say evaporated again. So even inside the trapped space, the condensation evaporated again. And I have to assume that it just evaporated and went, back into the air and suspended like it was before. It doesn't seem to be trapping the moisture permanently in the Tyvek cell. In the insulation, which is the same thing, nothing in there either. This is just a kind of a crude insulation, really, because I've created a complete dead air space like bubble wrap or something like that, or foam board. That's all foam board does, is create a dead airspace, right? It's got little trapped bubbles of air in it. So you're just doing the same thing, only you're trapping the air so it doesn't move, because slowing the air down or stopping the air movement is what will reduce convection. And so that's what you're trying to do with insulation. This, on the other hand, is very interesting to me because there's, you're capturing the moisture inside here for a period of time, and while it's condensed, so that this Tyvek prevents it from dripping down. This, on the other hand, is creating a condition that doesn't allow condensation to occur right there. So the moisture is still suspended in the air here, which means where else is it going to go? Is it going to go down there? Am I just pushing the moisture off somewhere else? Probably. Whereas this method, I'm capturing it right there for now. And then as the van warms up, it evaporates again and goes back into the air. That is, however, my hypothesis. So this segment is going to start out tomorrow's video, which you're seeing now, today, which I'm recording yesterday. Well, forget it. You're seeing it now. It's not the same day, this part of it. Okay, now it's Sunday. The last two segments you saw were yesterday. Yesterday in the middle of the day, I came out from the Sasquatch conference and checked the condensation in the van. And as you saw, when I looked under the Tyvek, the condensation that had previously been trapped there from the night before had dissipated again and evaporated. Now that gives me, that proves to me something. It kind of affirms what I thought would happen, but it also, well, let me just put it that way. It affirms what I thought was going to happen. Now, it gives me some more clear ideas about what I'm going to do going forward. I think I'm going to experiment more with this Tyvek. I'll have to admit, I'm a little biased toward the Tyvek. I've been very interested in that, material for a long time. I've experimented with making tents. I made a wallet out of it once. It's interesting material because it allows vaporized water or suspended water molecules to pass through it, but condensed water will not pass through it. And the reason for that is that the condensed water has a certain size to it. Water droplets can only be there's a limited size that they can get. They can only be so small. There's actually a known size for a water droplet. So if the holes in the Tyvek are smaller than that, water will not pass through it. And that's because of the surface tension of water. So that's interesting stuff. Now let me tell you why I'm interested in doing it this way. I know everybody has been telling me you need to heat up the van or get air movement going through the van. All of these things are correct. All of those things will work, and people out there are doing that. I will maintain my position, though, that insulation is not going to totally eliminate condensation in your van. If you're thinking it's eliminating condensation, it's probably not. There's probably little pockets somewhere, where there's a sudden drop in temperature inside the wall, so the dew point is reached at that little volume, and so it lets go of all the water right there and there. So that's how condensation occurs, and that's how the dew point works. Dew point is not some constant measurement that's equal with temperature and humidity. It can happen in various little spots, which is probably what happens in people's vans. You're heating up the volume of air in your van, and then you're looking on the dew point calculator that I showed the other day. You're saying, "Oh, I got excellent readings." Well, not necessarily. All that means is where you're taking your reading, it might be good, but what's happening in the places where there's a heat sink, like the exterior part of your van, right next to moisture air that's got a lot of moisture in it, and it probably has more moisture in it because that moisture has been pushed out into the walls of your van. So that air is probably holding. Come on, pop into focus, pop into focus, pop into focus. Gosh, I hate this. Okay, there we go. Okay, excuse me for that. The moisture is pushed into the walls of your van, and then when you reach a dew point inside the walls of your van where you don't want it to happen, it lets go of water. I just saw somebody on a forum recently talking about, hey, I pulled the insulation back on my van and there's moisture in there. Yeah, because you don't get rid of the moisture. It's going to always be there. All you can do is work with it. And that's what I'm trying to do. And this is my philosophy that I've been trying to go with. My idea here is, we do things in order to live. We force things into our environment to make them work a certain way. For instance, when we heat up our van, we're forcing heat into our environment so we can feel better. We want to get rid of condensation. We're forcing the air onto that surface with fans using electricity. Maybe there's another way to think about all this. What if we could just become more sensitive and aware to the natural dynamics of things that are occurring, like the humidity, the temperature, the expansion, contraction of air, and work with that and kind of roll with it and figure out how to work with it and not be requiring so many of these devices that we seem to depend on to force things to happen. Because it seems like we should be able to live that way. We're beings created to live in this environment like everybody else. Why is it we have to create complicated devices to make our lives comfortable? We should be able to figure out how to do it differently, I think. That's just my thoughts. So the Tyvek approach to me is very interesting. Now that is a relatively, that was created by a high-tech company, DuPont, right? But I'll bet you they didn't know what to use it for when they created it. That's how stuff like that is. They create something like that, and so the scientists are going, hey, look at this. We got something that lets vapor through but no water goes through. Isn't that cool, you guys? Yeah, and they're all, like a bunch of little 12-year-old kids in a room going, yeah, that's cool. Now, what the hell are we going to use this for? That's how that stuff works. So they put it out there on the market as, this is just my hypothesis. I don't know the true story of this, okay? But I'm just guessing, because I've seen how stuff like this actually does work. That's how things happen. So they've been selling it on the market as a house wrap, and it works very well for that. But I've always been curious about that stuff, because here's a use for it, a practical use that I can think of, where I can make my van more like an organic, kind of a living organism, where the condensation is regulated based on just the natural dynamic forces within the van, and I'm not having to depend on an electrically powered fan or running a heat source constantly. That's why I prefer to wear warm clothes rather than to run my heater all the time. I do run my heater. Right now I'm running my Buddy heater, but you see I have the back door open too. I don't like being closed into a box with a flame going. No. Go watch First Man, the movie. I remember that incident in the Apollo incident. Those guys were locked into a spacecraft. You don't want to have a fire start inside of a closed. So I never have my fire burning, any kind of a fire, propane or anything. I might experiment with some of these other small little heaters to see how they work, but I just don't like having any kind of flame going all night long, and that's one of the main reasons I never ran my heater in my first van that I had, even though it was insulated. I never ran it all night long. And so I started thinking, what's the point in having insulation in here? It's the same temperature anyway, with or without insulation, so why did I even bother putting it in? It was a waste of money, a waste of time, and who knows, too, the other thing is, what kind of gas off, what are you breathing when you put insulation in? I told a story of my building my house one time. Well, another part of my story is I did have a job one time installing insulation in commercial buildings. Yes, I did that one time. One of my college jobs that my dad, he was in the construction industry, and so I got connected up with a contractor one time and ended up installing insulation in a whole bunch of apartment buildings. And boy, I hated that stuff by the end of the fiberglass stuff was horrible. That probably, I'm sure that is part of my bias against insulation. But anyway, living in the van, it seems to me that I want to try to experiment with a method of living where I can work with the dynamics of just the normal, natural dynamic forces around me without too many moving, driven devices like fans and heaters and stuff like that. We should be able to live that way. We really should. It seems like we should. Other animals live just fine. They don't have fans. I don't see a bear with a fan on them out in the woods. Have you ever seen a deer huddling around a Buddy heater? They don't have to do that stuff. Why is it we humans have to do that kind of stuff? It's because we have adapted ourselves to it, and then we can't live without it. We get stuck with it. It's like anything else we do. I think there's ways to live, and I'm not throwing any of that stuff out totally. I love having my Buddy heater. I love having these comforts, of these human comforts, like coffee. I got my coffee going right here. But Oh boy, this has turned into a lecture. So anyway, that's all I have to say today. You guys have a good rest of the weekend. I'm getting this video up as early as I can because I gotta pack up and get back inland sometime today. I don't want to leave the coast though. It's such a beautiful day out here. Good grief! I was blessed with the best weather you can get on the Washington coast. It really is the best weather you can get. And it's even better than summertime weather because it's not, summertime can get too hot out here. I've been out here when it's really blazing hot on a nice day, but and usually in the summer the wind's blowing, but it's really calm, no breeze blowing, and the sun is out and it's clear skies. Oh man, I wish you guys were here with me. It'd be cool. We ought to have a van meetup down here sometime. Yeah, this is a great place. This Quinault Casino would be a good place to come and have a van meetup, I think. They'd love the Quinault tribe loves it when you go in and use their casino. They eat there and buy beers and or if you're a gambler, of course they love that too. But it might be a good place for a van meetup. It's a little bit of a drive, but you're right by the ocean. It's really cool. Anyway, I'm just putting it out there. You guys have a great rest of the weekend. I'll see ya tomorrow.